Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a TEDx sociologist and founder of the Science of Good Time, systematically create more good times in life and work, no other than Mr. Christian W Schnepf.
Thank you for having me here.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Christian. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes. So, as I got introduced already, I'm a sociologist. I'm researching on the science of good times, and I'm also a founder of the Good Time app, including the Good Time philosophy and the Good Time framework. So, the science of good times is basically all around the objective of how can we maximize the good times in our lives. And it is rooted in physics and biology. So basically, how does energy flow through a human life and the human body, which we perceive when energy is flowing as a positive experience, and when an energy is blocked as a negative experience. So the science is basically all around how does it work, how do the dynamics interrelate in our lives, that our energy is flowing and we can create maximum good times, but not through guesswork, like maybe it's the coffee or maybe it's something else that we need to do right now, but more on a systematic basis.
Mr. Christians, how do researchers objectively measure something as subjective as good times or life satisfaction?
That is a very good question, and I had to ask myself this question for a long time as well. That's why the foundation eventually came back to physics. As I said, why do we actually have good times in the first place? It comes from that our organism is primed to distribute energy. And I'm in a podcast. Sorry for that. Maybe you can cut that out.
No.
So that energy, basically, it comes back to our organism wants to distribute energy, or our organism needs to function ideally. And when there is some blockage that the organism can't move, then it feels wrong and basically doesn't pursue the evolutionary purpose. And to trigger the organism to change this is we get a feeling, a positive feeling. It gives us an indicator, do more of what you do right now, or what you do right now, pursue it, and then will lead you to a reward where everything is flowing again. On the other side, we have a very negative feeling. It can be sadness, it can be fear, it can be frustration, whenever something is basically holding our energy back. So this is the fundamental foundation behind. But in a human terms, we relate to it very easy. Do I tend towards something or do I repel from something? So do I feel like I want to do this, I like it, I want to be where I am?
Very well said, Mr. Christian. Very well
I want to do
said.
it.
Yes, very well said. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Sometimes we're lagging, Mr. Christian, so I just make it up for our lagging. So, what is the most surprising scientific finding about what truly drives a human happiness?
It is basically the it has a lot to do with the self. It has a lot to do with being connected to yourself and that you are functioning. And nowadays, it is no surprise really that we prioritize too much pushing and doing things for others, doing things for delayed gratification, instead of concentrating also on what is flowing in the moment. So nowadays we live a lot in the future. I'm doing this because I want to have. But this has a very big shortcoming and shoots back that we have compensation mechanisms but as I'm working on something I don't want to do, I need something that gives me a good feeling in the moment. But actually the real thing, what we want to do is that the energy is flowing inside of us. So therefore, it would make much more sense that we prioritize our well-being, that we do what feels right and align our action according to it. And every time we act in misalignment with what feels correct for us, we basically crashing against our inner tendency and blocking. And if we instead work on how can I create my life in a way that it feels right, that I don't resist, then we don't push ourselves too far and stop also working in a moment when we feel like I don't want to work anymore. So nowadays it's too much on the side of we need to push, we need to do one thing after the other, whether it's work or spare time activities. But we compromise on the time for relaxation, time to calm down. And this is pretty much the issue. And that's where our society is a bit off track. Say it like this.
Mr. Christian, why do people often mispredict what will bring them lasting joy?
Why do people often mispredict what brings them lasting joy? One part of it is certainly the way they were raised, our culture, the things that we were promoted, that this is what we need to do. For example, classic example, if I have more money, then I'm happy. So I'm working on all of those things that I'm getting more money. But this is oftentimes a cultural imprint that we believe we need this. The same as if I'm marrying, then I will be happy. So it is, we believe in certain cultures, when we were raised with that, we need to do something that our culture showed us needs to be done. And when I do this successfully, then I will be satisfied. But actually this comes from a position of scarcity, from a position where I don't have enough yet. And the issue with that is if I'm running away from a pain, so if I'm repelled from something and I'm just moving away from that object, just moving away from that moment of scarcity, for example, I don't have enough money, I am not married yet. In that moment, I just move far enough away. The moment I fix this, I'm still not satisfied. I am just not in pain anymore. That doesn't mean I like it. It just means I don't like it anymore. And most people think work on our approaches, on the approaches to pursue the things that get them out of scarcity, believing that that would fulfill them, instead of pursuing the things that would fulfill them after they are out of scarcity. So, for example, if I'm working only to get more money, and at one point I don't have scarcity anymore, then I won't be fulfilled the moment I have all the money, because I still need to do the work. But what would fulfill me if I'm pursuing a work that I really enjoy, and with that I manage to get out of scarcity, that I don't have money issues anymore, but then I continue doing the work. In that moment, it fulfills me. So instead of focusing on what gets me out of problems, what a lot of people do, and that brings a problem with it, of this misprediction, as you said, it wouldn't fulfill them. The focus must be more on the side of what would bring me what I really want.
Let's talk about the psychology of enjoyment. How does the brain differentiate between short-term pleasure and long-term life satisfaction?
I think our brain has a strong issue to actually predict what brings long-term satisfaction. Our brain is more about being in the present. And most things we usually in nature, the things that gave us a good time in the moment, so give us pleasure in the moment, we're usually aligned with it's good for the long term. If I'm hungry and I'm eating an apple, the fruit looks very delicious, it's very sweet, I like it, it gives me all the energy I need. Nowadays it's much more difficult because all the things that look delicious are usually not necessarily healthy. And that's where our brain struggles with it.
What role do neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin play in creating good times?
Oh, that's a big role. I mean, dopamine as a neurotransmitter helps us to pursue the things that are supposed to bring us a reward. It helps us to stick on track and do the hard work. And when we do it and even find joy in it eventually, then the moment we get the reward, it's very satisfying. And if I'm hijacking my dopamine through things that doesn't bring me a reward, then I will be very unfulfilled. A classic example is scrolling through social media. It triggers a lot of dopamine, but it doesn't give you anything afterwards. It just keeps you watching and makes your brain believe if I keep doing, then I will be fulfilled. Then I will get a reward, but the reward never comes, and that is basically a trap, and that can just lead to unfulfillment. Instead of when I'm working on something and there is an outlook of when I'm achieving this goal. For example, I'm learning an instrument, learning to play an instrument. And I have a realistic chance that at the end of this hour of practice, I am able to play the song. The moment I'm reaching it, it is also fulfilling. It is basically triggering the same inside of you. Keep going, watch the next video, play this, try to make this beat again, but with the difference that one thing will lead to a reward and therefore makes the whole experience rewardsome, versus the other, on social media, for example, leads to no reward and leads to inner emptiness and even inner confusion of, I just did so much, I feel empty because I put energy in, but I don't get anything out. And that feels, it leads to hopelessness.
Mr. Christian, why do some people seem naturally better at savoring positive experiences than others?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear it.
Why do some people seem naturally better at savoring positive experiences than others?
Savoring? What do you mean with
Yes.
savoring?
Savoring make spices more like they are more giving more flavor to the positive experience that they have.
I think it relates to two aspects. On the one is they remove more blockages inside of themselves, saying, I'm eating food and there might be something that I dislike, but I don't give too much attention to it. I say, this is okay. I'm not letting it draining me down. And then focusing on the things that bring more, that I actually enjoy. And that moment, I'm basically focusing not just my attention, but also my whole body adapts to it, to trigger the rewards rather than looking for the threat and what's not good. The other part is those people you're referring to perhaps have the ability to be more creative, to think of, I could watch a movie and that would be quite nice, but what could I do otherwise that is more than quite nice, that is extremely nice, say it like this, in simple terms. And this question to refer to it and say, there is something else out there that is even better, that brings me an even better experience. Answering this question and looking for those answers inevitably leads to the pursuit of more fulfilling experiences, rather than stagnating and tolerating a mediocre experience.
Let's talk about the social connections, Mr. Christian. How does the quality of our relationships impact our ability to experience joy?
Drastically. Our relationships are basically an exchange of energy. When I am feeling I am judged in a relationship, for example, that leads also to sooner or later adopting the inner belief of I am not good enough. I need to be careful. So basically, I'm controlling myself and controlling my energy flow because I need to block it here and there because it could be dangerous. Otherwise, when I'm in relationships that support the pursuit of the things that feel right for myself, and perhaps even say, do more of this. This is perfectly fine. In those moments, I am encouraged to flow in the direction that my body desires or my mind desires. And every time I'm in a relationship, or I would be in a relationship that suppresses my natural needs, my natural desires, and builds shame around it, this has a drastic impact beyond relationships. It manifests itself even in self-judgment and self-doubts, which eventually also swaps over to the things we pursue. The work we do. Can I do this? Maybe I can't do this. On the other hand, also because of that, I'm self-doubting. Am I worthy to receive the things that are important to me? And this is, as social beings, this is a very, very strong influence in our environment. And when someone is in an environment where, so say someone comes out of a toxic relationship or is used to people in their environment, in his environment, where they constantly judge and constantly have criticism, and this person is basically constantly tensioned, and changes this environment, it needs even time for that person repeatedly until that person realizes, I don't have to be tensioned. It's fine. I can be who I am. I can make mistakes. I don't have to be careful all the time. I can just try things without overthinking them all the time if something goes wrong. And if this becomes the norm, if this social environment is strong enough and nurtures this, then this will lead to a complete transformation of the person, even inner thoughts. The way people talk to that person will become the inner voice, and if it's positive influence, it will be a positive support inside of themselves, and eventually lifts up the whole life quality.
What is the ideal balance between social interaction and solitude for optimal life satisfaction?
That is a very interesting question, and I think we cannot answer that generally. I think this really varies from person to person, and even for each person, it varies from time to time. So in some moments, you might feel I need social connection, and in that moments, in those periods, going out every day is exactly what you need, until you're fulfilled with that and might realize I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from myself. My habits drop, my health is dropping, and I'm not as fulfilled anymore with the social connections I'm having. That's usually an indicator for you need to reconnect to yourself. So spend time with yourself and bring the attention on yourself. It's not just spending time alone and basically watching something else again, but literally bringing the attention to oneself. So it's even less about with whom am I spending time, but more about to whom do I give my attention. And if I'm realizing even the people in my environment I can't really give full attention anymore, that's usually an indicator that my capacity is of bringing attention to others is not there anymore, and I need to refill myself first and have some solitude.
Very well said, Mr. Christian. Beautifully articulated. And How can introverts or extroverts each optimize their social lives for happiness?
That is a wonderful question. And it both comes down to the person himself, bringing attention to himself. So there are basically 5 human life areas. I'm briefly listing this because it gives the context and makes it understandable. So the first area is oneself. Let me give a metaphor as imagine life is a game. Then you are the player. In this game are other players. You can do things that are your actions. You can receive things that are your obtainments. And you have an environment that's a playground, basically, the habitat where you play. So those 5 areas are crucial, and in each area you can whether feel repelled from it or pulled towards it. So in other words, you can have a good time based on this environment, your actions, your obtainments, your social life, and yourself, or you can have a bad time based on all of those areas. So for an introvert who is basically looking inside of himself, might have reservations towards people in his environment, saying, I can't really trust them because every time I'm going out of my comfort, every time I'm meeting people, I need to leave my comfort zone, and I'm stressed. In other words, I'm losing energy. I'm losing energy when I'm interacting with other people. And the reason for this introvert person to lose energy when he's interacting or she's interacting with other people is not because of those people take it, but because of the person doesn't maintain the energy inside him or herself. So being grounded in oneself and saying, I am perfectly fine where I am when I'm alone, but I can stay in this state without trying to please others, without being afraid of being judged when I'm with others, then I'm loosening up and I'm not losing energy anymore when I'm with other people. And that usually is a practice. So addressing the first case of an introvert who wants to be more extrovert, if we want to use those terms, then it would be a wise approach to select who do I want to have in my life. Testing in. I'm meeting one person at a time, and I'm meeting this person, and while I'm with this person, I'm looking still inside of myself and just checking in. How do I feel? Do I feel like this is draining right now or not? And if this is draining, it's very likely the case that I'm having somehow a resistance inside of me, basically holding on to something. And if I'm managing as an introvert that I let go and feel like, let me give a test, let me get out of my comfort zone, let me dare to have a little bit of trust of not being afraid in this moment with this person, then I might get the reward and the feedback mechanism, the feedback loop, that I'm still okay when I'm with someone. So this needs practice now. I can do this over again with the same person whom I'm trusting more and more. And if this is ongoing, then it becomes the standard. And then I'm having already a base with one person. And then I can extend it to the second person and can feel the same. Let me try to be myself when I'm with those people. So for an introvert, the goal would be basically to have 5 to 6 close emotional connections where the person can be him or herself without losing energy. And if this becomes the standard, usually everything above this number is irrelevant. The person can be her or himself with any person afterwards. For an extrovert, it's usually the opposite. An extrovert is more disconnected to himself and gains energy from others. But it's not necessarily, again, that he gains energy. He's basically just distracting himself from the blockages inside of himself, looking at what is not right inside of me. But if that person finds a moment to spend time with him or herself and says, let me not walk away from myself. Don't put my attention onto someone else or something else. Just put my attention on myself and see, where is my attention? Where do I judge myself? And what do I don't like in my life or myself? And realizing then in that moment also, let me relax. It's okay. It's okay that I'm like this for that moment. I'm not judging myself, and I'm not running away from here. I'm not running away from myself to look to others again, but find it comfortable for at least a minute or two to be with myself. And when that person, that extrovert, is practicing this for a while, 1, 2, 3 minutes, frequently until it becomes 5 to 10 to 30 minutes, that person starts getting energy from solitude again. And that is the progressive approach that builds momentum. There are different approaches. The hardcore approach, just go on a 10-day meditation retreat and confront you being alone with yourself. The first days will be horrible as an extrovert, but eventually you start breaking your inner complaints as well and start accepting. And this is another way to do that.
Mr. Christian, as a TEDx sociologist founder, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, my long-term goal is definitely to transform the world's priority to pursue maximum good times. Currently, our society is, our economy, that is basically all over the place and guessing around and saying you need to do this, and if you eat this, or if you drink this bubble tea, then then you're having fulfillment in the moment, and then chasing the next thing, or working endless hours, hoping that I'm getting money, and hoping eventually that I'm getting more good times, but compromising along the way. Actually, how good is my lifetime? How good is my health? How good are my relationships? Usually, nowadays, it's too much on the direction that people pursue the things in their lives blindly, hoping it gives them a better time, not really conscious about it anymore after a while, and just pursuing it blindly, but everything else falls apart. So my long-term goal is definitely to make this a conscious pursuit. That people say, why am I going to this job? Well, because I want to have more good times. Let me measure those good times and see if this actually fulfills me. And if I'm pursuing something and find out over time that it's not fulfilling me anymore, let me change this. Let us not stick to the things that harm us and miss the whole point at one point. So that is my long-term objective, to communicate this, that our businesses, our economy, our society, and every individual has some conscious understanding about why am I doing the things that I'm doing, and let me do them as long as they serve my higher goal of maximum good times in my whole life. And let me change the moment it doesn't work anymore, rather than blindly pursuing it. And I think this summarizes it. Even for my short-term goals, this is just broken down from this long-term goal.
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Christian, and looking forward for more success. What would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Like me. Why does anyone want to be like me? I think everyone should be themselves. That might be my advice then, though. Try to be the best version of yourself. And if you are the best version of yourself and align what feels right to you, and really taking a critical look on yourself, like, am I comfortable in my skin? Am I comfortable in my body? Am I comfortable to be in a room with myself and listen to my thoughts? Am I comfortable with my whole being, the way I'm reacting, the way I'm dealing with people? It's not about others and the environment. That's just helpful contributors. But am I the best version of myself? And not trying to be someone else. And in that moment, when you maximize that, things just change. Things change and relationships get better. You free up capacity to be a better friend, be a better boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, be a better daughter or son and brother or sister, and also perform better at work, because you don't chase acknowledgement anymore. You don't chase the needs hoping that someone else gives it to you, but you gave it all to yourself, and you gave yourself already the approval and acknowledgement that you were looking to get from the outside. And as long as you are not the best version of yourself, all the voices you think come from the outside, actually your own voice is judging you, knowing you can do better. And this will resolve the moment you work on yourself. That would be my advice.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Christian. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I had two books that I found pretty impressive. One book helped me a lot many years ago when I was traveling through many countries and looking for a different way of approaching life. Um, that was called The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. It's a story of a man who is now already in his 70s or 80s, and he just wrote down his experiment from the last 60 years, where he just felt like, what would happen if I'm just surrendering to the things that come up in my life without having the resistance aside of me? And that is a very inspirational story. It's not meant as a self-help book, but it's something you can certainly learn from. Another book that touches on that theme of maximizing good times from a different angle, what I found also very interesting, is the book The Courage to be Disliked. The Courage to be Disliked. I don't know the author right now in my mind, but it is basically addressing the Freudian psychology, the approach, the perspective that my past is actually an excuse that I'm not living up to the life I want to live, that I'm feeling sick, that I feel angry. All of those things are basically just excuses for me not accepting the situation as it is. And if I would just say my anger or my thoughts are rooting from, are just a mean to an end. I'm just using them as a tool to get something what I want. But if I find a different way to get what I want and don't fight against it, I actually don't need those things in the past. I don't need to say I had a difficult childhood. I just make the decision and say, whatever it is, but I'm here right now and I'm making from my point in time a different decision to move forward. And that is basically liberating a lot. But also, as the book implies, it's an approach that requires courage, because it also means you can't blame anything else but yourself if you don't live the life you want to live. You simply say, the reason I'm here is because of me bringing myself here. It's not because of my childhood. It's not because of the circumstances. It's because of me. And if I don't like where I am right now, then it's also because of me. But I can also change it. So I have no reason to wait for change. That is quite interesting. Can highly recommend it.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Christian. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Christian, if you could implement one policy change to improve collective life satisfaction, what would it be?
Understanding where people come from instead of judging. Seeing what leads to the point where we are and not judging the situation, but rather trying to understand the situation transparently and working on a solution. That, solution to the objective of maximizing good times, rather than sticking to what I want versus what you want, but what we both want. Yeah.
Mr. Christian W Schnepf, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners or viewers to support your advocacy, your business, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Oh yes, I would love to invite them to test it out for themselves, to measure their current level of life satisfaction. Going to goodtime.app, goodtime.app, written together, very simple, and just make a test. For the next weeks, we even invite people in live calls and leading them through it and answer questions. That's it.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Christian W. Schnepf, because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more happiness that brings you as one of his advocacy. So, Mr. Christian, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Modicon people, see you soon.